Thanks. We'll come back to more. All right. So Josh Morrison, creative director and co-founder of Frolic Communities. Tell us a bit about your enterprise.
Thanks. I first just want to say it's such a deep honor to be on this panel with a team at Guild and Parity, are like some of my biggest heroes. So huge honor, and to be part of Housing Lab has been such an incredible experience and process. So thank you to everyone who's put this on. Frolic. So what we're working on, a lot of the points that you touched on, Chris. We're building multifamily housing cooperatives on single-family lots. It's a model that my co-founder Terner and I have been working on for the last 4 years. We started out of research at MIT and then have started in Seattle and are expanding to California this year. And this comes, you think about the launch of the 30-year mortgage from the FHA in the 30s, how that just completely transformed the entire housing market and brought millions of Americans into homeownership. But that same program explicitly excluded Black buyers from it, both in the insurance of mortgages, but also in guaranteeing new projects. And that sort of market transformation now, if we're to bring millions of new Black and Brown families that have been historically renting into homeownership, that, you think of what it means to have been paying decades of earnings into rent to begin building wealth. A lot of our focus has been on how to make that transition from renting to homeownership and to bring the threshold low for families that don't have a lot of wealth. And for us, the co-op has been a really powerful tool for that and model. And our projects use 2 layers of debt, which allows us to bring the down payments on our project between $10,000 and $30,000, which in Seattle, typical down payments are above $100,000. So that's a very big focus of ours, is how to make that bridge from renting to owning. And then the access to land, which is another point you touched on, is a critical issue, especially building in really expensive markets like Seattle. And the way that we are able to do what we're doing is that we are broadening the sphere of who does development and who interacts with development. So in this case, homeowners are the initiators of all of our projects. We partner with homeowners who are leveraging the equity in their land to create the multifamily projects that we're building. And if you think about the type of housing that gets built, so much of it is driven by the source of capital and what that capital wants. But if a homeowner is one of the main investors in the project, what they want is very different. And has made it a lot easier for us to build projects that are accessible to first-time home buyers and to families that the market wouldn't otherwise serve. So that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah. Quick question. So I was reading up on your examples, and you talk about a homeowner's got some equity in the house. There's a redevelopment potential. They don't have the capacity or the capital to do it. So if I'm a homeowner, do I end up residing in the new development? And do I also do that plus take cash out? So what's in it for the homeowner? How do they come out on this?
So, so the homeowners that we're working with, and we have a wait list of right now 36 in Seattle, and that's before doing any sort of marketing. So this has just been through word of mouth of homeowners that want to build projects on their lots. All of these homeowners want to live in the project. So they're coming to us because they are seeing their neighborhood displaced. Because of an important context I also didn't mention is the rezoning that's happened in Seattle, and that's happening in a lot of cities across the country, of single family land into multifamily land. And it puts homeowners in a tricky situation where your home is actually completely devalued. Your land is worth more, but what you can get for selling your home isn't dramatically different than what prior to the rezone. And so a lot of the upside of that new development potential goes to developers, not to homeowners. So homeowners that want to age in place, they don't want to sell and leave their neighborhood. This is kind of an opportunity for them to have agency over their future, and then also create opportunities for their community and their children to have a future in the city and own their home.
And in terms of the folks moving in, is there some conscious choice about who those folks are and kind of fostering community even before they move in?
A lot of that process so far has been very driven by the homeowners as their network and their community, and bringing those opportunities to it. We also have a wait list of people who are interested in, know what we're doing and are interested in our model, that can also have access to those projects after the homeowners have organized their community.
One other just point, and maybe you mentioned this, but this is a limited equity co-op, is that right? In the sense that people buy into the co-op, but they can't just resell at market, that there's some caps on resale, is that correct?
So part of what a lot of what we've been working on in designing the financial model of the co-op is how to balance equity growth with long-term access to the communities. And so compared to a typical limited equity co-op, the residents are able to get quite a bit more equity, but there's still a cap on, it's not, they would make much more money if they were to buy a home in the city. So there is some limitation to their equity growth. But there is definitely an emphasis on them being able to build wealth and have access to that.
One last question is looking at the pictures, really, beautiful designs, but dense and fitting into single family neighborhoods. How's the NIMBYism been on this process?
Really, it's a very good question. A big focus of ours has been on how to actively engage neighbors that are traditionally opposed to development in their neighborhoods. And we've seen a lot of support from local community groups and neighborhood groups that have been previously fighting development, particularly because we are focused on anti-displacement and keeping existing homeowners in the neighborhood. The other thing as a context is that there's so much getting built in the neighborhoods that we're building. So to create projects that are more inclusive and also more sensitive to neighborhood context and in a way giving a bit more back to the community, we've so far had more support in that regard.